Hi, guys. Welcome to the TOWTalk Podcast. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about a new wealth tax in Ulster County. We're going to talk about town officials working part time versus full time, and maybe a couple more things on top of that. But before we get started, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop and leave us a comment of 7 words or more to feed that algorithm and let us know what you think. All right, without any delay, let's get started. All right, Neil. So I guess it's the county of Ulster has a
Yeah.
new wealth tax.
No, so what they're doing is they're proposing, right? So Jen Metzger, who's the county executive in Ulster County, is proposing a wealth tax, right? A 16.75% tax surcharge on state income taxes. Okay. Now, I want to point this out because I think that this is the important thing. I'm going to share my screen. All right. And I want people to understand, right, what we've been talking about with regard to misinformation. Okay.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I think that this is important. So this guy, Kevin Byrne, who's running for office, shared this. No article, no context, no nothing. And this is being shared among right-wing media all throughout the region. That, oh my God, Jen Metzger, she's a liberal and all she wants to do is tax everybody, and she is proposing the 16% tax on residents. So the reason why I wanted to bring that up and I wanted to show you that picture and that sort of meme is how dishonest it is,
Okay.
because the 16% surcharge tax on income taxes is on if you earn more than $200,000, okay,
That's
if you're single,
individually.
right? If
Yes.
you're single, and $400,000 if married filing jointly. So the average taxpayer in Ulster County makes $86,000 a year.
Right.
So it will not impact most Ulster County residents. Okay. But the right wing is sharing it like this is the end of the fucking world. All right.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm really sick and tired of it because it's a really dishonest share. Right.
Mhm.
Like, like
Not always the case.
it is, but see, this is my problem. My problem is that this is an opportunity for all of us to have a discussion rather than just be pissed off, yelling and saying these people suck, right? It's a great opportunity to have a conversation. So here Jen Metzger has opened the opportunity for all of us to have a conversation about whether, first of all, we can have the conversation. Is making $200,000 a lot of money in the Hudson Valley as a single individual? Is making $400,000 as a couple a lot of money in the Hudson Valley? How
A lot
many
of me.
individuals will it impact? Right? Like, this is a conversation starter. But what pisses me off is that the right wing up here, the Republicans up here, want to end the conversation. They don't even want to have the conversation.
Well, because if you have the conversation, then this information comes out and suddenly you start to see things, "Oh, wait a minute, it's not as devastating as they're making it out to be."
But that's the thing is why are we not having this conversation? Why can't we have this conversation? Why do Republicans in our area not want us to have this conversation? I can tell you, they ain't making this much money. The people who are saying these things aren't making this much money. I saw a guy who was running for Middletown School Board. He posted this crap. Okay. And I called him out. I said, you're not being honest. You want to sit on the school board, you have to be honest. Like, I'm sorry, we have to all start having honest conversations in our community. And if you can't post or have an honest conversation with somebody about these things, then you shouldn't be serving in an elected office. End of story.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, first of all, if you're in elected office, people are electing you because they want to be able to trust you. And if your first thing to do is to spread misinformation, disinformation, and any other kind of propaganda, then how can anybody have confidence in your
Right.
ability, what you're doing in that elected role?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's just
And
me.
and I also find it comes from a lack of understanding of how municipal government works. Okay? And that's also frustrating, right? Because everybody keeps saying, "Oh, we need to cut spending. We need to cut spending. We need to cut spending." Right? You know, the largest spending that we do in the state and the federal government is give away tax breaks, is give away taxes, right? Is to give money back to billionaires,
To the
right?
wealthiest
To
class.
wealthiest, income earners in our state because we consider them job creators. Enough's enough. They aren't
So
creating
tired of that.
jobs. They aren't creating the jobs that and we just need to start having real conversations, and we need to stop with this nonsense of smear of BS, right? And focus on what do we all need, what's going to help us,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
healthcare. Yeah. Need
How
healthcare.
can we all benefit? How can we all win? Right? Like, what are the things that we need to do in this state? There is no doubt that there is money wasted in the consultant class in New York State. There is no doubt about that. If you think that the Republicans, right, are the ones that are going to cut that, you're fucking kidding yourself. You're just kidding yourself right now. We saw this in the town of Wallkill. They didn't cut spending in the town of Wallkill. They spend more. That's what they do. They just spend. They don't give a shit what money they take in. They don't give a shit about balanced budgets. We're seeing this all the way around,
Yes,
right?
we are.
Jen Metzger has a hole in her budget. All right. I've pointed this out a million times to people that revenues for counties, for local municipalities are increasing at 1% a year, whereas expenses are going up 5 to 8% a year.
Especially now. You look at where we are now.
It's higher now. So the
Yeah.
question is
It's
is how do you bridge that gap? If you can, should you tax all your property owners, or does Jen Metzger have it right and say, you know what, we have some wealthy people in our communities, and they need to pay a little bit more, in order for us to be able to have good roads, because they're benefiting from those roads. They are likely have some type of business. Maybe you know they're
or they work.
transporting things, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a business in that community, you're transporting things in that community. You need good roads to be able to make those transports.
Yeah. They're probably using them more. So, plus you're using bigger, likely trucks. Things that tend to damage roads tend to wear roads out faster than cars because of the weight.
But let's have the conversation, right? Instead of going with we're just gonna, sling mud, right? How about we have a conversation? How about this starts the conversation, right? Rather than calling people communists, Marxists, fascists, socialists, whatever the fuck the terminology is that you don't know what the fuck it means anyway, right? How about we just go, we just do,
How
move
about
forward,
offering us some fucking solutions? All they have is
right?
everything Democrats are doing is bad. This is bad, 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 bad. Well, what do you have to do that's good? Cut taxes. How's that going to fix roads? How's that going to give us back health care?
Right.
That going to help struggling families put food on the table? How is that going to raise wages? No answer. Well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get another job, go Uber.
Right.
That's the answer. No. Families should be able to support themselves on with either one income or two, maybe both parents working. That's fine. But having to work 2, 3, 4 jobs each, that's where we are now. So having people who have excessive wealth, sit there and get breaks that we end up covering ultimately, right? Because those things have to be done. Those roads have to be repaired. Sewer has to be taken care of, especially if there's leaks in the lines. The water needs to be clean, right? All these things have to be done. Who ends up picking it up? Us. So our property taxes go up to cover that, So if people have an excess, and it's not going to affect the struggling families, it's
Right.
going to affect the ones who are already getting breaks from the federal government.
I'm just kind of sick and tired of the dishonest nature of politics, you know?
Yeah.
It's we need to start having these conversations. We need to have tough conversations. We have budgetary problems. We have real problems in this country now. We have infrastructure. We have wealth inequality. We have healthcare. We actually have real issues. And what I find is that those on the right aren't interested in solving them. They're just interested in throwing more parties, and that's it. And we're seeing that from this administration. We're seeing that
Uh,
here locally. What did we see for 4 years here in the town of Wallkill? We saw party after party after party, and that was it. You know, they didn't care about the finances. They lost the bond rating. They had money stolen from them. They didn't give a shit. They tried to hide it all. They didn't want anybody to know. You
until
know,
it came out. Yeah.
because at the end of the day it was just about keeping the party going. Just got to keep the party going, and we need to have real conversations. And I praise the Ulster County executive Jen Metzger in her bold vision in doing this. I think it's a good first step, and I think it's a great conversation starter. And for those that are, just disparaging her and dismissing this whole thing, right? You're on the wrong side of history.
And you're not offering
Right.
alternatives.
Right.
Right? This is proposed at this point, right? This hasn't actually passed,
Yes.
has it? Okay,
No,
so
it's proposed. Yeah.
it's a proposal. So here's your chance to talk about it and maybe offer an alternative.
Right.
Right?
Let
And you don't do that. The other side doesn't do that. They never offer alternatives.
Right. And that's what happened in the city, right? Mamdani wanted a wealth tax, and what did he get? He got a pied-à-terre tax, right? Like, so if once the conversation hits the table, then you can have discussions. You don't get change if you're unwilling to have the discussion, right? And what we've been told for so many years is no, 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 you can't talk about that, because if you talk about it, then we have to actually act. Okay? And that's where we are as a country. So the other side just immediately stops the conversation. They label you, they put, they throw stupid shit at you for no reason, and make it sound like somehow you're a communist or you're anti-American or whatever. I'm sorry. I'm the one that doesn't want my money going over to China and Russia, which it's going to now thanks to Trump. So you need to sit down. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing, right? And these are things that we all deserve as Americans. And, I could really give two shits that you don't want Black Americans or Latino Americans to have those things. Fuck you, right? They pay taxes. They deserve them. They're Americans just like we are. Everybody deserves it.
So I think maybe one of the ways to sort of re-envision what taxes really are is, people think of taxes, well, the word tax is a bad thing, right? Oh, it's thing they're taking your money away from you. But it's also an investment in your country. You buy property, you pay property taxes, you're investing in that community that you're an owner, and you own a piece of that community. You own your property, and your property taxes is kind of your investment in maintaining that community that you're in. Again, we talk about roads, sewers, and a planning board that creates lays out a plan for a town that's organized and not haphazard as what we have here in the town of Wallkill, but that's another conversation. But that's how you got to look at it, is an investment. That's a whole thing with the New Deal, right? So he transferred some wealth from the wealthiest class and then used it to invest in not just in roads and building roads and bridges and all that stuff, but also in building institutions and education, hospitals, things that communities needed. And it created jobs and it created wealth for millions and millions of struggling Americans suddenly had job opportunities. They suddenly had a way to make income. They got income. They bought houses. They built low income houses for the GIs coming home. They were able to build communities that they could invest in. So yeah, taxes is part of that investment process. It's sort of an alternative way to look at it. Does that make sense?
Listen, yeah, I mean, listen, we've talked about that. Taxes are absolutely the investment in your community. What the issue that people get into that I really think, needs to get discussed more, that I've tried to bring out and I tried to talk about here in town with regard to bigger issues, is that a lot of those infrastructure issues, right, are over time, right? So, you need to replace a sewer line. Okay. You got 30 years out of that sewer line. Okay. Maybe somebody moved into your community and then moved out of your community. Okay. Well, they benefited from having that sewer line. They benefited from utilizing that sewer line, but now they're going to pay nothing towards the new sewer line or the refurbishment of the sewer line or whatever way you want to call it, right?
Okay.
Because they came in and they left. Okay. So I think what it is because, people aren't staying in their communities for a long period of time, and because local communities have been mismanaged for so long, okay, people no longer feel that they're invested in their
Yeah.
community, So what happens is all of a sudden you need a new control panel, right? Well, it's
Yeah.
$30,000 for a fucking control panel, right? Well, that should have been money that should have been collected over time, because those things, only last so long. So you should be collecting money and putting it aside, every year, for a new control panel. But municipalities aren't managed that way because nobody thinks long term. Nobody cares, right? You're only
No
getting elected
surprise.
all you care about is getting elected in every 2 years. So what did you have? You had a bunch of people that didn't give a shit about that, and they weren't putting that money aside. And now all of a sudden you got to go out and you're like, oh, well, now our taxpayers have to pay for this new control panel, and you have to take the hit in 1 year. And then you're like, what the fuck? Why am I paying my taxes when I've only lived here for 2 years for a new control panel, right? That benefited everybody who was there, right? They were the ones that used it. I didn't use
Yeah.
it. I haven't been here that long, right? Like, so it's this idea of nobody's in there managing, and nobody thinks that the people that they're electing are good managers, right? So nobody wants to make the investment. Everybody's just like, fine, fuck it. I shouldn't have to pay for it. Let somebody else pay for it. And
Yeah.
that's where we are.
And that's kind of where we are. It's sort of our politics right now, and kind of moving right along. I think this kind of rolls in to a certain degree to, the discussion that we just sort of keep having with these short-term elected roles that are really part-time. And, but some people are sort of making issues that they should be full-time because of the salary amounts or some craziness. And, this has
Again, they
been
set the salary. They set the salary and then turned around. And then I go with who, like, what basis are we talking that so I keep hearing part-time. What does that mean? Like, what evidence has been provided that he's working part-time? That the supervisor in the town of Wallkill, Frank Danto, is working part-time? What evidence has been provided? It's literally just one fake Facebook page where they're like telling everybody, "Oh my God, he has another job, so therefore he's working part time," and there's no evidence of that.
yes.
Frank
Let's
has
let's
been to
give,
he's been to
I
meetings. He takes constituent calls. He does everything that has been asked of him. He shows up to all the events in the town. So what evidence are they giving? They're not giving any evidence. What they're doing is again, it's
Spreading
propaganda and lies
misinformation.
and spreading misinformation from the same fucking people. And this is what I say. They lied to you yesterday. They lied to you today, and they'll lie to you tomorrow through their surrogates. And they'll
Yeah.
all do it through a fake persona online, right? So that they can't be held accountable for any of the shit that they did.
Yeah. So just for for everybody's for those in the audience who might be new and might not know what's going on, we have uh our town supervisor this year. It's a 1-year term because these elected roles are going to be moving to even years so that they line up with national and state elections. This way you just go every 2 years and everything is done here. But these are part-time roles, whether it's a town board council person, alderman, or a supervisor. They're 2-year terms. So there's never been anything on the books that says you have to quit your other career to be in these roles. Okay. But the salaries, just so you know, are voted on by the boards. And for the better part of the last 50 years, 40 years, 50 years, we have had in the town of Wallkill a Republican majority. And I think Frank the first Democratic supervisor in
Not the
2020,
first. No, he
but in
wasn't the
like
first.
40 years. I mean, like in 40 years or
No,
so.
I think there was another Democratic supervisor before
But
that.
for the most part, the board has primarily
Has been
Republican.
Republican. Yeah.
Okay, across the board. So every fall, the board gets together and they plan the budget for the coming year. So over the last 4 years, the last supervisor and the Republican majority, it was a 4-1 majority of Republicans, including the supervisor, have been jumping up the salary substantially for what's considered really a part-time role. And it went up about 22%, 23% to $122,000 a year. That's what if the Republican had won, at the time that was Ralph Carr who was running,
Right.
he would be getting that salary and nobody would
Right.
be doing anything. And he has a business of his own that he runs.
That's the interesting part, right? Is the fact that he has a full-time business that he runs, right? But that would have been okay for him to have a full-time business of his own, right? And be town supervisor. But as a
Not
Democrat,
can't do it.
that's not allowed. Yeah, no, that Frank isn't allowed to do that, right?
Yeah.
The current
Yeah.
supervisor isn't allowed to do that, right?
So since Frank won and since he came into office, the new Republican slate that's running is running on a platform of I'm gonna work full time. But really, you don't define what that is. It's basically a warm body in the office doing what? Waiting around for the phone to ring, waiting around, right? A lot of the things.
What's your vision? What's her vision?
There's no vision.
What's
There's
she
just
gonna do? How is she gonna fix the problems that we have here in town? Is she gonna debate Frank? That's what I want to know. Is she gonna
Well, yeah, I
debate
think we want
Frank?
to do that.
All right, like, because there should be a debate. Like, I'm sick and tired of this crap of no debates for Major C in the town. Like, that's just a load of crap. George was afraid of me. He refused to debate me altogether. Like, it was ridiculous. So stupid.
Neil ran in 2023, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And he
so
was afraid. And he was afraid to debate me.
because they're
Like,
going
think
to be
about
called
that,
out on the
you know?
issues.
A guy who refuses to debate and people would vote for that. Come on. We've heard from Frank. Frank is willing to debate.
Yeah.
So where's Jill?
Well, here, we're willing to conduct a debate or just, get out there in the public and do a debate. However you want to do it, you should definitely plan for debate sometime before this election, maybe two, is conducted. And because we want to hear from both sides. And I think the
Yes.
public wants to hear from both sides. I can say this, if you want to hear from Frank, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the town hall. Frank is holding his monthly, he calls it a spill the tea meeting. He comes in, you come in, you sit down, they have some refreshments for you, and he tells you what's going on, what accomplishments he's made in the last month, what challenges he's dealing with, and what the status of the town is and what his vision is. And that's an opportunity for you to ask questions. You should come out
Right.
and do that. Besides,
Right.
they usually have cookies. I like cookies.
Unlike the former supervisor who wouldn't address people's questions in a public forum, right? We have a supervisor now that is willing to speak to the public about issues that pertain to the town. And I think that that's important, right? And people who, there are a lot of people who talk about leadership in this town, right? Who apparently don't know what leadership is, but that's leadership. Leadership is being able to stand in front of people and answer questions. And these guys, were there previously, were never able to do that. Never did it. And anytime they tried, they just lied. It was just a lie, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Do you have any additional comments you want to add to this episode?
No, I just think, when it comes to misinformation, we all have to be diligent and understand that when somebody is sharing something on Facebook, wherever, that it's up to us as the constituency to do our own research and not just take what's being posted at face value.
Agreed. Yeah. We live in a difficult time with a lot of just bullshit, and it's not just on the national scale. It's right in your own backyard. So, folks, just keep yourself aware of that. Ask questions, and get all the information before you draw any conclusions. All right. So, with that, thanks so much for watching. We're going to end it here. And please, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop and when we go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for our live stream. And also leave a comment of 7 words or more to feed the algorithm and help keep us boosted, as there has been a lot of suppression going on YouTube, as we have spoken about in the past. All right. So we love you, and we will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.
Peace out.